Hi, art students. This is our last week of the trimester, so make sure um, you finished all your projects. If there's a project you haven't finished, then you can finish it this week and turn it in. Now, the 28th is a Thursday, so that's the last day you can turn it in at school because I'll pick it up. Normally, I pick up on Tuesday and Wednesday from your regular classes, but I will also pick up Thursday because it's the end, right? But you don't have school on Friday. So if you're finishing it at home on that Friday, then just take a picture of it and send it to me or upload it to Canvas. Okay? And if you think you missed a project or something, you can check PowerSchool. You can have a parent help you check PowerSchool. If you don't have a grade, um, like on an earlier project, like you turned in like weeks ago, then yeah, maybe I haven't gotten it yet. So you can email me. But if you turned in something like that Thursday, then it'll take a couple days for me to grade it. And I probably did get it. That's pretty complicated, huh? So just make sure you finish your work and either bring it to school next week or this week, right? By the 28th. I'm filming this ahead of time. And if you're remote only, just take a picture of it and email it to me or upload it to Canvas. Okay? So get those projects in, and that'll be that. So one more thing though, for sixth grade, the 3D shoe, that's not going to be part of your trimester one grade. I'm pushing that into trimester two. So um, this week is kind of a catch-up week for sixth grade. So you can finish up your shoe, but if you have other projects to finish, like cut line, city perspective, and your zebra, finish those first, right? That's what really matters. Finish those three and turn them in. If you're in fifth grade, let's see, fifth grade, the kaleidoscope, I'm pushing that into the next trimester. So that's not part of your first trimester grade. So finish up your other stuff first. Fifth grade has VCS perspective, fish scratch, Starbucks doodle, and warped checkerboard. So finish those before you finish your kaleidoscope, and then send me pictures or just bring them to school. And then fourth grade, your comic book project, I'm pushing that into second trimester, right? So you don't have to it's due, the 29th, but you don't, if it's not finished, or if you have previous projects to finish, like your Rubik's Cube, Campbell's soup can, and Owl Scratch is in there, and a missing one. What was the third one? Oh, the Swatch Watch. So if those aren't finished, finish those first before you finish your comp book, right? And then send me pictures, etc., etc. Finish that stuff, send it to me. Thank you. And if parents, if you're listening, like I said, thank you for helping your student finish their work. And you can just check my Canvas art page to see the projects they have to do. You can check PowerSchool. All right. Okay. So now it's time for Godzilla of the Week. So last week, I forgot who won last week. Was it Godzilla 62 maybe? Anyways, second place, I don't remember. Second place was Legion. So this week we're doing Legion. And there will be a new survey for you to vote on. Okay? But here's Legion. Okay, here he is. He's kind of cool. He's like a giant bug. He's like a locust, kind of. So he fought Gamera. So this is a Gamera enemy. The new Gamera, that is. Gamera is the flying turtle. I showed him to you. And Legion's really cool. He really is based off that Bible verse, you know, like the demon-possessed man who had 1,000 demons in him. So this is like... Legion has all of these kind of pods, and so he's got like not 1,000, but kind of, and they shoot out and they form little creatures, little mini legions. So he's like an army too, and so he's pretty cool. This thing, normally it's closed, but it opens up and then it shoots like a death ray. So normally it's closed. But anyways, he's pretty rad, isn't he? That's why I wanted to show him to you. He's pretty creepy too. He's like a big um, locust insect bug kind of a monster, and he's really huge. Like in the movie. So I think it was just called Gamera versus Legion, I think. Okay. See, eye detail, face detail. Pretty cool. All right. Awesome, huh? So he's one of my favorites. I got a lot of favorites. Okay, so that's it. So that's it for Godzilla of the Week. Let's get into the art part of this week. Okay. Hi, fourth graders. Um, this is our third week for our comic heroes. And last week we did a bunch of sketches. You did 3 costume designs. I only drew 1, but you're going to do 1, 2, 3. You're going to sketch them out. We also did face designs week 1 in your packet. And this is the week where we do a hero and a villain, right? And you can pick a man or a woman. Make sure you pick the correct one for hero or villain, right? So if I want to have a female woman villain, I'm going to use this page. If I'm going to use a female hero, I got one here. And I have a man villain too. Now you only have to do 2 of these, right? One hero, and one villain. So I just have those extra pages just in case you want to do a woman, right? Or a man and a woman. You can do both. I mean, but you only need to do 1 hero and 1 villain, okay? So that's what you want to think about. And then you're going to look at your sketch ideas, and then you're going to draw your hero. And so that's what we're going to do. You're also going to come up with names and stuff like that. So there's going to be Sharkman. You can like fill in this information. You know, he summons the power of sharks. He can I don't know. But you'd come up with a power and you'd write it down. Age, height, weight, favorite food. Well, dude, he likes dead fish. He likes fish. Sushi? Okay. Secret identity, you can come up with this stuff. Teams up with, think of somebody or whatever. Aquaman. Teams up with Aquaman. Arch nemesis, whoever my villain is, probably, right? Okay, so what you want to do is once you have your sketch, you want to draw your hero. So I'm just going to kind of draw him. I have my camera in the way, so I can only draw him so well with my arm extended, but let's see what I can do here. And you want to draw neatly and carefully, right? Looks like I have a little shark tooth here. All right, and then he's got a big S. I'm going to keep the S round. But you're going to draw your superhero and villain very carefully on this page. Very carefully. You can draw lightly at first. And then we're going to color him in. If you have colored pencils, you can use colored pencils. If you have markers, you can use markers. And I don't know. You want to outline them though, so I'll talk about that. If you have a thin black marker, like an ultra fine point Sharpie, you want to outline your hero and your villain. Let's see here. You want to fill in your blacks with black. All right. And then I gotta move him over. I got that tripod in the way. He's got like a seam here. Let's see here. All right. Okay, so I drew him out kind of carefully. Now, now you want to ink them, and color them. You know, maybe you can ink them last. Actually, coloring is probably the first thing you want to do. So you can use markers or color pencils. I'm gonna use markers. You can use, I got these thin markers for detail. And remember, these are things you're gonna find at home, right? So like I have thin markers. If I want to use thin markers, I think I can use a thicker marker. Guess he's gonna be blue and now, and I also want to think about complementary colors too, right? So there's different ways you can use complementary colors. If he's blue and green, then I can do the complements on my villain. The villain of the complement of blue would be orange, and the complement of green would be red. So my villain can be like red and orange, and my hero can be blue and green. I could do something like that. Or I could use complementary colors within the same person, right? So I can use blue for his outfit, but then I can use orange maybe for his S and some of his stripes, right? I just want you to be thinking about complementary colors. Like, you're like, well, you know, so you have choices. You can do a lot of different things, but you want to, if you use blue, you probably want to use orange somewhere. You want to use your complementary colors, whether they're on your hero or your villain or both, right? Mix and match. You can do that. That's okay. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna do blue here. I'm gonna kind of edge in. Wow, it's a real dark blue. I didn't think it'd be that dark, but that's okay. So this is gonna be blue. Notice how you don't always have to edge in, but I edge in, and then I fill in, you know, with my marker, and I try to go in the same direction. That makes it neater. That's how you know, professional artists typically do marker work. Although they don't use markers as much as they used to. They used to use markers all the time for like fashion and stuff. Now they just have computers, so they don't have to worry about that. But back in the day, they would use markers and stuff to quickly color in basic concepts and things like that. But now they got computers that are much easier to quickly, rapidly color things in. And those are the classes I teach for college students. So let's see here. Okay, and then let's see, he's gonna have blue in here. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do, originally, I was, okay, let me color this in. Let's see here. Originally, I was gonna have these black elements, like black here. But because the blue is way darker than I anticipated, that's a real dark. That's a dark value. I may do these black parts just a bright orange instead. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So you can change your sketch into your final drawing if you like. That is okay. You can do that. And that's kind of the whole point of sketches, is that you get ideas. And then sometimes you change your mind. That's okay. That's good. If you didn't have a sketch and you just drew it the first way, then you wouldn't have more ideas. You wouldn't have known that it would have looked better if you changed your mind. So that's why sketches are important. They do a lot of sketches all the time. Artists, you know, people working in whatever kind of art it is, cartoons, comic books, games. There's always ideas that they're thinking about. Okay, so I gotta do his face here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Now let's see. What about his arms? I'm gonna do this. One thing you want to think about is contrast. I didn't really talk too much about contrast. I was talking more about complementary colors. Contrast is darks and lights, right? Darks and lights. And what's dark and what's light? You know, blacks are dark and whites are light. And then there's like medium values. This is a pretty dark. This isn't a medium. That's pretty dark. It's a dark value. Um, and so if you have a variety of darks, lights, darks, dark, light, dark, it creates a nice um, dynamic effect, right? Okay, so I'm going to do this orange now. Originally this was going to be black, but I changed my mind because that blue was so dark. If the blue was if the blue was lighter, then I would have done this black. But you know, I discovered that my blue was way darker than I thought. So that's okay. I'm just going to do it that way. You can change your mind. Okay, I'm going to have this orange too. Okay. Now, okay. And then let's see. I'm going to leave the S white, but I'm going to do his gills orange. I'm going to do this thing orange. I'm going to do this thing orange. He's going to have an orange fin here. He looks so much like a football player. What team is this? Do you know? You know, football, baseball teams, they use a lot of complementary colors because they're dynamic and they look good and they're easy to spot from the distance. So they do this all the time. Let's see here. All right, and then I'm going to do this. This will be orange too. I left a little bit of white. Don't leave too much white on your character. I want to see color. But you can have a little bit of white like accents. But don't just do like all white and then like a little bit of color. No, it's not enough. Not enough color. Okay, so I colored him in. I don't really have any colors for his face. Maybe if I had, I got like a light brown. Maybe I can do like a light brown for his face. Yeah, maybe I'll do it. Let's see here. But you can use any color you want. That's hard to see. But what I do want to talk about is shading. But before I talk about shading let's talk about outlining your project. Now, you probably want to color them in first. But then what I recommend, what I want you to do, if you have it, is if you have an ultra fine point Sharpie like this, this is the best to trace. You may not have this at home, but if you have it at home, use that. This is a regular Sharpie. It might work, but usually and they call it a fine point. It's not that fine. You have to use very little pressure to get a fine point, and that might be too thick. You can try, but then I have Crayola. If you have the thin markers, like maybe you have a thin black marker like this will work, right? Or you might just find a pen around the house, like a black pen, like a thin one, like that parents use for like signing checks and stuff like that. So you could use that too. I'm going to use this ultrafine point Sharpie, and what you want to do is you want to trace very carefully. You want to trace the outline of your drawing. This will make it look really awesome and neat. What it does is it kind of cleans up the edges of your drawing, and it makes the edges and the details more prominent, meaning you can notice them better, because you want your drawing to be clear and understandable. You can barely even see that. You know why? Because that blue is so dark. Ooh, let's see here. Now look, I kind of went outside his body with that color a little bit, so maybe I can just bolden this line a little more to kind of cover that up. Can't even see what I'm doing. I got the camera in the way. There, so that looks a little better. Okay, and then let's see, I'm gonna trace these details. So let's compare. See how much nicer and clean that looks, and this one just kind of looks rough. It looks like a rough drawing. So this looks neater because I'm using a pen. Like I said, any kind of thin black pen will work. Ultra fine point Sharpie, it's ultra fine point. This works best. So if you have one around the house, use that. This is the best one. But I didn't send them home because we don't have enough to. I mean, I did send them home for one project, but then I don't have enough to send it out again. Otherwise, I would. Okay, so I'm going to trace him here. It's kind of hard to. Let's see here. I'm going to trace the parts that you can just see for now, but I would trace all around him. So let's see, but I'm going to trace around these lighter parts. Oh, messed up a little. Okay, I'm going to trace these. Definitely want to trace this S to see how it's kind of faint. So if I very carefully trace around that, especially in that lighter orange area, it helps you notice it better. It stands out. You know, that's what comic books do all the time. There'll be a person who draws it. See, it's much easier to see. I'm going to draw this line. They have a person who draws it, a person who inks it. They kind of trace everything, kind of like what I'm doing. Except they do a real neat job, like a super neat job. They're the neat freaks of comics, like those inkers. They have to make everything perfect. The penciler is kind of a sketch, so he can it can be a little rough, although a lot of times they're not that rough. Oh. And then the inker will ink it, and then they'll have like a colorist come in and color it. A long time ago, they would use inks to color it, but you know, nowadays they just use a computer. And I did that. I colored comic books on the computer. Okay. Oh, and then I'm going to do his face. Now, you can try to draw a little more detail. Like in the costume sketches, it's still not that big. But you can if you can draw a little more detail in there, go for it. Let's see. I'm going to draw... I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. Whatever. But you can add a little more detail if you want. I'm going to trace this shark tooth. Okay. So I didn't trace everything just because I don't want to run out of time, but I would have. I would have traced everything. I traced the stuff that you could see, right? And some of it's a little not perfectly neat. Okay, now, that's what you have to do. So you do this, and then you'll do a villain. So I did like blue and orange, you know. I have my complements kind of taken care of here. So like maybe he doesn't have complementary. I want you to think in complementary colors. Complements are the opposites. Orange and blue, yellow and purple, red and green, right? So technically I kind of fulfilled my requirement of using complementary colors. If I just want this guy to be red and purple, you know, I can do that. Or if I really want to be super complementary, I would do the complements of this. So like the complement of blue is orange, although he has some orange. Complement of this is blue. Yeah, see, he's already got the complements. So maybe I want to pick different complements for this guy. Maybe he's yellow and purple. Maybe he is red and green, right? So then he'd be really opposite. But I leave it up to you. But you're going to do one hero and one villain. I'm only going to do one for the demonstration, but you're going to have one hero, one villain. Now, if you want to do more, you can. Let's say, because I have the extra pages, you're like, Mr. Smith, can I do more? Of course you can. But just make sure you do one really good hero and one real good villain. That's for your project, your homework. But if you want to do more, you could do 2 heroes and 2 villains. I leave it up to you. but they'd have to be men and women, right? Because I'm not gonna send you more printouts. Although I think I have this, you can print it out on the first week. On the first week I have this, your parents can print it out if you want more women heroes and more men, villains or whatever. I mean, you could print it out. But anyways, you only have to do one hero, one villain. Okay? Now, we have a little extra time, so let's talk about adding some shading and some highlights. Actually, it's kind of hard to do highlights, but we'll do some shading. Now, shading, you don't have to do. This is extra. This is extra, okay? But let's say you want to do some shading. You're like, Mr. Smith, how do I do some shading? Well, typically, you're gonna do a darker color. So, like if I have orange here, I'm gonna use red, like a dark red, or maybe even a brown for a shadow here. If I have this blue, see, this blue is really dark. Normally, I'd say, well, you pick a dark blue. Well, that's pretty dark. Maybe a dark purple or maybe a black. You can use a black. You don't want to use too much, and you don't want to use a black marker to shade. If you want to shade, remember, you don't have to shade. This is optional. You can use colored pencils. So let's see here. Let's put more here. Okay, so I've got, of course I don't have black in here. You're kidding me. Let's see. Do I have another one here? Where's my black? Oh no! That's funny. Oh wait, is this it? Oh, here it is. Okay, I got it. Okay, good. So I got black. I'm gonna use black for this blue. So what you want to do is you want to pick one light source. The light source normally comes from the left. And you're like, how do you know? Well, typically this is the way they do it. So what happens is the light is shining. Here, I'll draw it like this. The light's shining down on the left. On the left of your paper, that is. Because that's actually his right. Oh my gosh, confusing. And then the shadow is going to be on the other side. Like this part's going to be bright, and then this part's going to be shadow. So that means on his arm, this part's going to be light, and this part's going to be in shadow. So blue is not going to be hard. It's going to be hard to see. I can see it a little bit. So you got shadow here. So he's kind of got some shadow. I'm just going to kind of color it in. Let's see. I'll do the orange. It'll be more noticeable. But I'm doing it on the other side. The light's coming down over here, and the shadow's on the other side. So the shadow is on, what is this, the right? This is the right. The light's coming from the left. And you're like, Mr. Smith, does that really matter? Well, kind of yes, because if your light source is consistent, it looks more believable. The shadow, let's see. I'm doing this kind of fast. I'll spend more time on the shadow here. Let's see. Now, it's going to be hard to see on this camera. Oh, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see my shadow. Yeah, so see this dark. Yeah. When you shade, here, I'm gonna draw. So let's say this is his arm. Well, I'll just draw it. Here's like the blue part of his arm. Let's see here. Right? So let's imagine this is all blue. And I want to add a shadow. So this is this part. This part is this part. So normally what you do is, here's a good way to do it. So you go, boy, you can't see the camera. I don't know, let me try to do this. Oh, I can't do this. Okay, my arm is around the camera. So here we go. So you want this part to be, and the light's coming this way. The light is coming from the left down, right? So this part's brighter, but this is going to be in shadow because it's turned away from the light, right? Oh my gosh. Now, here's what I do. Shadow. This is the darkest. Okay? Then, notice how I left a little bit of a gap here. There's a little bit of a gap here. That's for reflected light, and that's kind of a complicated concept. But I'll try to explain to you really quickly. But this is, the black doesn't go all the way to the edge. Now, if you did it that way, like you can't, oh, it's kind of hard to see, but I left a little bit of that color in there. It's okay. But this looks a little more superhero dynamic, right? So this is the darkest. This is they call this a core shadow because it's the darkest. It's around like a core of like a sphere, a ball, or a apple. I don't know. Cylinder is what the core. Anyways, what's going to happen is now I don't want, the next part's not going to be so dark. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like you're not going to press down on your pencil as hard. And it's going to be like a dark gray. If you're using black, that is. Right? And you're like, oh yeah, that looks like a shadow. It does. Because usually it gets really dark, and then the light, as the shadow approaches the light kind of makes it brighter, so it's not as dark. And then this is going to be now, and then I'm going to make it not very dark at all. So I kind of have 3 steps. Let's see. Oh boy, if I can do it. Okay, kind of. Yeah, you can kind of see it. So I got steps. I got dark, medium, light in my shadow. And I go, wow, that looks pretty good. Now, what about this part? Is that going to be pure white? Not really. This is going to be a little bit of the light in here. So watch, I'm just going to add a little bit of that light in there. And I go, oh, yeah. And you can maybe go in a little bit darker. Let's see. Maybe a little bit of that medium. You're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. So your question is, why does that look cool? What's the science behind it? You want to learn about science in 4th grade comic book art class? I remember learning this a long time ago when I was in the art at the comic. I was a comic artist. And I kind of learned this in school, but then they kind of showed me. What happens is light is shining and it hits this part of, this is his arm. So this is the highlight. This is where the light hits it. So the light hits it here. But then when you go around the arm, on the other side of the arm is a shadow, right? And you're like, oh yeah. So then your question is, how come this isn't the darkest on this edge? Because what happens is the light shines past, so I'll do this. The light shines past the object and it bounces off. It bounces off and it lights the other edge of the object, but not as bright as this, because the light is weaker. You're like, oh my gosh, Mr. Smith, that is really complicated. I know it is. So don't worry about it if you don't fully understand it. What you do need to understand, though, is when you do a shadow, especially like on a superhero, because they're usually pretty shiny and dynamic, your shadow doesn't go all the way to the edge. It's almost on the edge. And then this is not the darkest part of the shadow. It's like the medium. This is like the medium value. And then it goes dark. So it goes medium, dark, medium, light shadow. And then white or just the regular color. Okay, so but it's going to be hard to see on this blue. So let me see if I can do it. So I'm going to go dark here. It's hard to see. It's because that blue is so, I can kind of shade it a little, and then this will be, this will be a little. Let's see if we can see that. You can kind of see it. I'll try it on his thigh here. So again, I got really dark. I'm going to go medium and then lighter. Like I don't press down as hard. Like that's how you get those lighter grays. You don't press down as hard. And then this is kind of a medium. I don't know. Let's see. A little bit. It's easier to see it on the white. Okay. But anyways, that's pretty complicated stuff. But I want to teach that to you just because sometimes if you forget it, don't worry about it. But for some of you are really bright. Most of you are really bright. And you remember stuff like that. And I want you to remember that from my class. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember Mr. Smith taught me that. Of course I taught you that. I taught you all the secrets. Okay, so let's do, now red will be, let's see, it's not that dark. It'll be a little easier to see on this orange, so let me try it. So again, I got shadow. Ooh, it's not very dark. You can kind of see it. Ugh. Now the question is like, well, can I do black? I don't know, black won't look super good. Maybe a teeny bit. Okay, so I got my core shadow, or that's the darkest shadow, right? Then I'm going to go kind of not so dark, and then light. Boy, that's not very dark. Okay, I'll do right here. You'll be able to see it better here too. So dark, medium, and then light. You're like, oh, that looks really cool. I know. I'm an artist. Okay, and this goes lighter. Okay, I'll do it over here real quick. So I got dark. See, the problem is this red is not very dark. And then medium, and then light, and then, okay. And then, so let's zoom in. Let's check it out. Yeah, you can barely see that. You can kind of see it here. But not so much there. Okay, so maybe I would use a little bit of brown. Let's see if brown is darker. I just want my darkest part of the shadow to be darker. So let's see. Oh, the brown works. Let's see here. But I was going to say I could probably use a little bit of black. You don't want to use a lot of black in a lighter color like orange. Like that actually looks okay. That looks okay. But I'm gonna use a teeny bit of black. Just a teeny bit. So that's the nice thing about color. You can't do this with markers. Colored pencils are way easier to do this. Yeah, it's a little darker. Okay, let's check it out. Yeah, okay. I don't know. It's up to you. Remember this shading. Here, let me do it on his. So where would the shadows be on his chest here? So you got shadow here, shadow over here. Remember the light's coming down and hitting him this way. Now, oh, shadow under his neck. So let's see, shadow here, shadow here. My pillow. That's not a lot of shading, and then I can kind of blend it a little, make it not so, like I can kind of make it that medium gray. It's not gray, it's like it's a lighter value of that red. It's like not as dark. But I say gray because values, you tend to think of values in grays, like white, gray, and black. It's complicated. That's for future classes, and I do teach it to you in 5th and 6th grade. So you'll get a better understanding of that later. Okay, that's not very dark, so I'm going to add some brown. Now I'm kind of pressing down harder. It's almost like my red becomes the medium dark shadow, and then the brown is the dark shadow. I don't know. I mean, okay. So there. Looks pretty good. Shading. I can do some shading. I don't know. I kind of like it. Sometimes there's a shadow under the nose, but maybe not so dark. I don't know. Okay. So shading is optional, but it's a lot of fun. Color, add a lot of color. Don't just do white. You know, you can color this thing. Maybe you want that to be bright yellow or something, like a little explosion box. You can do that. You can also color the cover if you're all done. You don't have to, but it'd be fun. It'd be fun if you drew something on the cover. It's not required, but you can draw a real cool cover here of your superhero or villain. You can draw them again. Maybe they're flying or something. But then that's it. So you do your faces, all 6 faces. You're gonna have all 3 costumes or more, but 3 is all you need. And then you're gonna have a hero and you're gonna have a villain. I didn't do my villain because basically you do the villain the same way you do your hero, right? And that's it. And then fill in your information, right? Don't hurt your brain. I mean, it's supposed to be for fun, right? So you can just think of this stuff and write it down. It's like not. It's more important that you do a nice drawing. And then don't forget, outline your details in black. If you don't have black, you can probably, if you have a sharp colored pencil, you might be able to use that to help you outline as well. That can work if you have colored pencils. See, I'm not sure exactly what kind of supplies you have at home. Colored pencils work great if you don't have them. This is a nice little set you can get at Target, and they're just good to have around if you don't have them already. Or like I said, or you could use these thin markers, but it'll take forever to color a superhero like this with this thin marker. But this would be good for outlining and things like that. I recommend, bigger markers to kind of fill in the big areas of color. So whatever, and you might have fancy markers, you might have fancy, whatever you have at home that's really good, you can use. Oh, let me show you one more thing. So I got these white spots, and I can use a shadow, but I'm going to use a light, just a little bit of black, not very lightly. I'm going to lightly add shadow. And then I'm going to get a little darker. So it's almost like a gray because it's white. The color white, it's not a color, but it's like this band of white material is, it doesn't go to black because it's brighter. Like blue is dark to begin with, so it would go black as a shadow. But this would be kind of like a light gray, and you can see, oh yeah, it looks pretty neat. There. So I added a little bit of shadow, and you can kind of see that the shadows kind of connect. So here it is on his shoulder. It's like that dark brown and red, and then it's kind of like a gray on the white band, and then it's like brown again in that band, and then it's like black on this blue. And they kind of connect. Same on his leg. It's like black on the leg, thigh, and then in this orange, it's like a dark brown and red, and it goes to black again. And they kind of connect. They do connect. They don't kind of connect. They connect, and then it looks like a real nice shadow. I didn't do it here yet, but you get the idea. So that's optional, but that can be a lot of fun. That might make your hero look really like extra good, you know, because anything you can do to make your drawings look great is going to be awesome. So that's it for today. That's it for us. I'm going to do a bonus video for my 5th and 6th graders because they don't have a video this week. So I think it's going to be a Godzilla. So I will probably post it along with this video. But remember, the Godzilla one is extra. You can do that whenever you want. There's no grade for the Godzilla one. It's just going to be for fun. But this one, the comic one, this one you have to finish for your grade, right? Anyways, that's it for today. I hope you had fun. I hope you had some really cool ideas for your superhero and villain. So finish that up, and I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Bye.